Let us now go to Sydney and talk to Tim Anderson, Director for the Centre of Counter-Hegemonic Studies. Very good to have you on the program. What do you think is the meaning and the significance of this report? It's another unending war for the US.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. You're right that the intervention of Yemen against the Israelis after the Tufan al-Aqsa operation and in defense of the people of Gaza is unprecedented, really. And Yemen, the Yemeni armed forces, wrongly called Houthi rebels, they are now leading the regional resistance in this struggle against the Zionists, of course, in support of the resistance in Palestine itself, and particularly in Gaza. And it's important to note, as you've said, that the capacity, the technological capacity of the Yemenis is basically homegrown. Okay, they've got some ideas from outside, they reverse engineered some things, but their hypersonic missiles are totally constructed within the country. Most of their weaponry, including even the AK-47s, are made in Yemen. I was there in February. I saw the museum showcasing all their weapons, and now they've developed anti-air capability too. I'm not sure exactly which one shot down these Reaper drones, but as you say, they've shot down 22 or 23 in recent times. I know they do have an anti-aircraft capacity called Hassan Nasrallah anti-air capacity. I'm not sure if that was used in this case, but clearly they've improved their capacities. And all of the propaganda about Iran providing them with weapons is really just misleading, just trying to create a smokescreen, basically. Yemen has support, moral support from Iran since the successful revolution in 2014, 2015. Perhaps they have some advisory and financial support too, but basically all of their weaponry, their military capacity, and of course, importantly, the political will behind it and the popular will behind it is homegrown in Yemen.
Right, Ms. Anderson, what do you think makes the Yemeni armed forces so difficult to beat for the rich Western-led coalitions?
Yes, there's a couple of factors, and one thing I think people ask themselves is how is it that a country which, until the Gaza genocide, was said to be the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, how is it that precisely these peoples are the ones who raised their hand in support of the people of Palestine? Everyone would have assumed that they were weak and powerless, and maybe they were poor people wearing sandals and so on. Well, they do wear sandals, but they also have hypersonic missiles. Their hypersonic missile, Palestine 2, is capable of 16 times the speed of sound. It's effectively unstoppable, and they have a range of other weapons too, of course. So on the one hand, there's a very strong moral force behind the leadership, backed up by, you see, by the popular rallies, the huge rallies they have in Yemeni cities every time there's some new initiative there. So there's a very strong moral ideology behind their actions, which say, we're not going to think about the repercussions, we will do the right thing and worry about the repercussions later on. That contrasts with the caution of many other states to think if we do this, then they're going to do that. You know, that the Yemenis don't think like that. And they don't have any conscription in their armed forces. There is a huge willingness of young people to join. They're eager to join. They want to actually move through the other countries to go to help liberate Palestine directly. I believe the Yemeni revolutionary government asked the Jordanians and the Saudis if they can move through there to go to Palestine to liberate Palestine. Of course, they were refused by those traitor comprador regimes. So on the one hand, there's this very strong moral commitment, which doesn't think about, you know, the consequences and what's going to happen to us. On the other hand, in terms of the US attacks on Yemen, they haven't been as effective because their intelligence has been very bad. Now they're struggling to make intelligence breakthrough. We know that the Zionists did have very good intelligence on Lebanon, and that's why they were successful in hitting many of the targets of the resistance in Lebanon. They don't have the information in Yemen. They're struggling to get it. We know because they've hit a number of sites which are old sites and not particularly important sites in the past, at least when I was there, and the last round of bombing was in January this year. Of course, they were able to hit important civilian infrastructure like the port facilities in Ras Isa and in Hodeidah, for example, but not the important military facilities. They are still struggling with the intelligence there. And Yemen is a big country geographically, and so they haven't got all of their resources in the one place. And the attacks by the US, although they've managed to kill people, we have to admit that the US can always kill people, but they haven't really been able to blunt either the will or the capacity of the Yemenis to hit back.
Indeed, interesting to get your perspective. That was Tim Anderson, Director of the Centre for Counter-Hegemonic Studies, joining us from Sydney.